Welcome to another session of Just Me. And today we're joined by the fabulous Evrah Rose, who I met a few years ago, and she is just awesome. So, who are you and what do you do?
I am Evrah Rose and I am a spoken word poet for Wrexham, but my role over the years has changed from one of just writing commissions to now being involved in activism and various community projects around Wrexham to grow the community essentially.
That's so cool. So, how did you arrive at doing what you're doing? I mean, what's your journey? So, take us back to, well, as far as you want to go back.
So essentially, around 8 or 9 years old, I was going through some difficult things in life, and I had no way to express myself. I did martial arts and things like that, and that was good for kind of discipline and physical outlet. But I didn't really understand how to articulate, I guess, my experiences, and I latched onto things like rap music. So I started writing rap just to kind of vent things. It was a blank piece of paper, and it just enabled me to speak in a way that I just couldn't verbally. It was very, very strange. And throughout my teens, I maintained that, but then my style, I guess, transformed into spoken word. And the more aware I became of social issues, it kind of morphed into what it is today, which is, working class activist poetry, I guess.
But at what point did you realize that? I completely get what you mean of being able to kind of express one's feelings. But
Yeah.
how did you then know that it was going to be through the spoken word, or did it just naturally evolve?
I guess it was very, very natural, and it was something I kept a secret for a very long time. I didn't share my writing with people. It was essentially just a therapeutic outlet for myself.
Mm.
And it wasn't until probably about 4.5 years ago where I had a discussion with one of my best friends called Adam, and I said, "Oh yeah, I do write poetry, spoken word, rap, etc." And he was like, "Oh, can I just hear some?"
Wow.
And that was quite daunting because obviously it's personal stuff that I'd not shared with people, and
Mm.
his reaction to it, he was so overcome with emotion, but also support for me as well. He was like, "You really have to get that out there. That's brilliant." Um, and the sneaky little devil put one of my recordings on YouTube, and it got such a great reception. And then I was offered a gig at a spoken word night in Wrexham called Voicebox, just an open mic slot essentially, just to introduce me to the world. So I did that, and it was very nerve wracking. Essentially, like public speaking for me, although I can look confident, on the inside I'm shivering, and it was daunting, but everybody was just so supportive. And it just went from there essentially. It was just that one open mic slot, and before I knew it, I had offers from the BBC and my commissions were
Wow.
growing. And then obviously I became involved with Wrexham FC and activism, etc. Because I'm a person that doesn't really silence myself on important issues. And it's just over the past 4 years since that very first performance, everything has just grown massively for me, and I'm able to work with people and charities that are just incredible, and be involved with incredible community work as well.
But I mean, your work, and I'm really hoping that you'll kind of, give us a sample of it. But I
Yep.
mean, I remember in the Wrexham Community Centre where I first met you, I
Yeah.
was exactly the same thing. I mean, you went up on stage and you started speaking, and I think by line two, I mean, I was just captivated. So when you started writing this down, can you remember the first conscious point of writing something down, and what was it?
It was about a family member actually,
Mm.
and it was I don't know if you know the tune, but Eminem, "The Way I Am."
Mm.
And I was a big, and still am a big fan of Eminem. And I structured the writing basically in the way that he did it, in the stanzas and kind of the syllables and the way the river moved, I guess. But I changed every lyric to reflect the experience I was going through with a family member.
Wow.
And my parents saw it, and they were like, "You're really good at this."
Wow.
I was so young, and I thought, if I'm able to express myself like that, I'm just going to keep doing that. And it essentially was just a therapy for me. It's got me through some really, really rough parts of my life. I mean,
Mm.
rap music and being able to write in that way has pulled me through some of the darkest places in my life. And I think if it weren't for that, I would be in a very, very different position now.
That's amazing. It's so funny, isn't it? Because we kind of like when we're young, we're really creative, aren't we? And very
Yeah.
imaginative. And then we kind of go through school and stuff. And I don't know what happens, but that seems to lessen, doesn't it? And You know,
Absolutely.
and it's so many people like you know, your great self who rediscover. I mean, what was school like for you?
To be honest, school was a mixed bag. I really, really loved primary school, but I think one of the difficulties they found with me is I thought a lot differently to a lot of children. I didn't approach things in the same way. I had my own way of doing things, and I think they really struggled to kind of utilize my strengths, I guess. So I had comments like, stop writing, that's not really going to do anything for you, crack on with this. And, even poetry in school, as much as, people like Shakespeare absolutely have their place and have shaped literature, um, for me, um, I just felt alienated by it because it didn't reflect my language, it didn't reflect my life or my experiences. So I actually found school, again, quite alienating. I didn't find it accommodating to my strengths. Although, many children did succeed, there was a lot of us
Mm,
that who were quite different and thought differently, didn't really find it the best place to be. And it was kind of, my writing was, it was something I did at home mostly because it
mm,
wasn't really embraced that much in school because I did have my head in a pad, and I would
mm.
often phase out because I wanted to write or even draw something at times. But that, if I didn't have that outlet, I mean, I would have been so much worse at school as well. It was definitely something I absolutely needed on my side. And a blank piece of paper, as funny as it sounds, was my counselor, my best friend,
Brilliant.
my role model, because it allowed me to speak, and it never judged me, it never answered back, and it never questioned anything of me. So like when it comes to writing and kind of the approach to it, like I'm very mindful of the fact that out of everything in my life, even all the difficulties or the people that have come and gone, a blank piece of paper and the words are always, regardless of their context, going to be there for me.
That's so beautiful, though. I just love that. So, what have you learnt along the way? I mean, what has this all taught you?
It's taught me a lot about people and intentions of people, and that young people really do get too much of a hard time. So I do run some workshops with young people, and it's generally, I'm going to use brackets here because I don't like this particular phrase, challenging behavior.
Yeah,
Um, and I've walked into sessions, and these are young people. They aren't challenging, they're forgotten and alienated by the system. And
brilliant.
actually, when you find their best way to communicate and find something that they actually are really passionate about, they are so engaging, they're so talented and passionate about things in life. There's a lot of young people I've worked with that, take Bugsy Malone, for instance,
Mm,
a northern rapper. A lot of them identify with him, and he's had his struggles with mental health, and he's been in and out of prison. But one thing that a lot of young people have said to me about Bugsy is not about the trouble that he's been in or the difficulties he's faced, is the fact that he's overcome them. And that to me was really inspiring to come from young people who essentially branded the same way Bugsy was, bad person, never amount to much. But actually, these people are so, so aware
I
of
know.
social issues. They're so, so aware that life is tough, but actually you can overcome it. And the fact that they're ignoring the bad that he's done, but actually latching on to the fact that he made it and he's accomplished despite these difficulties is quite something, I feel.
I know, and it's such a shame, isn't it? I mean, one of the
Yeah.
things that we believe is that, I mean, no child is born to fail. I mean, no
No,
child wants to fail, regardless of how they find their route through life.
absolutely not.
And those poor people, young people who are excluded,
Yeah,
I mean, I've never met one who isn't talented in some amazing
yeah.
way, but they just need to find their voice and they need to find an ear that's sympathetic and will support them.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And even when I've worked in HMB Berwyn as well with,
Mm,
young men in there who, in a prison setting, but actually when you just sit down and talk to them
mm,
as human beings and have frank discussions and not judge them for
mm,
the choices that they've made or the traps that they've fallen into, because I mean essentially nobody grows up wanting to commit crime. I think it's social issues that lead people down that path a lot of the time. Our social environments mold our decisions, and unfortunately, we do make decisions that aren't always the best for us or people around us. But actually, if we're not given the tools or the opportunities, such as youth clubs or after school
mm.
activities, or somebody who's literally going to engage without judgment, then we're going to be led down paths that we don't want to go down initially. And actually, just all the people that I've worked with that have been labelled challenging, difficult, off the cuff, have actually been really talented, genuine, passionate people.
Yeah, and when you look back in history, you know, you look at people like Da Vinci and
Yeah,
Caravaggio and all those amazing artists and engineers. I mean, most
yeah,
of them had a really troubled and turbulent kind of upbringing, but they
absolutely.
didn't live there. You know, they had a mentor, or they had somebody who believed in them, or they believed that that
Yeah.
inner power was going to be powerful in some way. Yeah, that's
I
brilliant.
think I think belief in people can literally change their lives. Like, with restorative justice, for instance, not just for the people that have been impacted by crime, but saying to somebody, I believe in you. I believe
Mm,
that you're capable of change. I believe that you've got these skills and you can change your life is more powerful than sitting there going, get this qualification, do this service. I mean,
mm,
belief is just huge. I mean, I look at a lot of the young people in Kaya Park, the estate that I'm from,
mm.
and when you just show somebody that you believe in them,
Yeah.
despite their disbelief in themselves, it changes their outlook. It changes the way they smile. They walk with their heads up. You can throw a million skills at somebody, but if you don't believe in them, they'll sense that and they won't get anywhere because if you can't believe in them, why would they believe in themselves?
So true. So true. So what keeps you going when things get tough? Because they do, don't they? And it's not like you have a little tough period in your life and then suddenly it all goes away. So
Yeah.
what keeps you going?
Apart from the writing, I think it's my humor. I mean, I developed a lot of my humor and grit, I feel, from my granddad. He was diagnosed with a terminal illness when I was around 7. And do you know what? He had his really bad times and he did feel, depressed at times and he did feel extremely sad. But, right until the end, he was still laughing, he was still joking, still being ironic. And, when people say, oh, where'd you get your irony or your humor
Mm,
or your grit from? Essentially, I do feel it's from my granddad because watching him struggle with his health, but still have that bite about him, still have that spark. It's really inspiring. And I feel like not only does the writing complement me and help me with an outlet, but I feel like my natural twist of humor on things really pulls me through things. I'm able to laugh at situations, regardless of how dire they are. There's always a bit of humor you can find
mm.
in everything. There really is.
I mean, I love that. I mean, I said that before we started kind of recording the session, but your sense of irony and it comes through in your texts and your emails is brilliant. Honestly, it's just amazing. But
Thank you.
how do you feel that? How do you improve on that?
To be honest, when it comes to my writing, I am my worst critic. There's nothing that anybody can say about my writing that I haven't said much worse to myself. But essentially, in terms of improvement, I do read things, but mostly I read, news articles or medical journals or things like that. I don't immerse myself, funnily, in poetry. I have the poets that I love. So people like George the poet, for instance,
Mm.
he speaks volumes to me, well over things like Wordsworth and things. But my improvements come from just having a good chat with myself. So, say if I write something and I really don't like it, tend to look at things and see where's the rigidity. I don't do rigid, which is why I don't do office jobs because I can't take a rigid, structured, and kind of environment that kind of kills your creativity. So, improving, look at the world, go out and sit on a bench and just watch people.
Oh,
Literally that. Experience something. Go to the supermarket and listen to people chatting. Smile with them. And one of the things I absolutely adore is say when you're on a train and train journeys are so, so boring. They're so monotonous. I mean, I hate them. I love my headphones. One of the things I absolutely adore is when you see somebody on their phone and they're laughing at whatever comes through
yeah,
to them and
yeah.
they're smiling. And I find over any poetry or music or anything, that's incredibly inspiring to me because people are what shapes the world. People are what shape my poetry and kind of my experiences. And I just love those hints of humor and happiness that filter through. And regardless of what that person's going through in life, there's something at that split moment, whether it's a text or a video, has made them smile genuinely with their eyes. And that to me is just that pushes me to keep going, to kind of identify with people, empathize with them and kind of make people laugh but also make them aware. I think you can be serious but also you can have an element of humor. It's absolutely fine to do so.
And it's also, I mean, it's kind of foundational and fundamental, isn't it? To find that humor,
Yeah,
however ironic or obtuse it is,
yeah.
it's really important.
Yeah, exactly. And I've had people say to me, "Oh, I didn't realize you were this funny." Because obviously, when I'm on stage and I'm talking about serious, really
Yeah,
serious things, it is going to be inappropriate to laugh at that moment. But actually, like my segues, or when people get to know me on an individual level, they're like, "Oh, you're really funny and ironic." And it's like, yeah, I don't have to be serious 24/7, because some of the things I do are so serious.
mm,
Without the humor and the light, it would pull me down. It really would, as it would anybody. All those negative social impacts that are hurting so many people. If you just absorb yourself in the negativity and don't bring yourself a little bit of light, don't get on TikTok and laugh at, hilarious videos, you're going to bring yourself down, and you're not going to do anybody any good, and even yourself as well.
brilliant, brilliant. So, do you have an example of or a poem that you've written or that you'd like to share?
Yeah, this one's the last one in my book, actually, and it's called Mind Estate. And the very first poem in my book begins with saying, I come from nothing, they say. And it's essentially about the community that I absolutely adore, coming from a council estate in Kaya Park. And the last poem is exactly how I feel about council estates, that people who haven't necessarily grown up in them identify with. So I was hoping I could do Mind Estate with you.
Of course, do please. Yes, yes.
Okay, I'll crack on. I grew up in social housing, and I carry with me the fondest of memories, a sense of being that I haven't quite been able to restore since privately renting. And I don't know my neighbour. And I quite often make jokes about his peculiar behaviour, his visits to his shed in the early hours. And I definitely couldn't ask him for a favour. Not like I did in the past, when neighbours in houses and flats came together, opened doors, and welcomed Matt to take me back where I was most content. Many see social housing as just a concept, a resolution, even a project. Yet, it is something more. It is providing families with security, stability, and the ability to thrive. It is safety for our most vulnerable people. Society has forgotten the root of social housing, where we were once proud to say we housed heroes, where the health of our nation mattered, and those who could do something did. So, as a council estate kid, I ask of you this: to consider what a council estate is. It is a place of activity, of community, where people actively support one another, where generation after generation grow and develop, where youth and age share stories of activism, hard work, and glory. A place my grandparents will live out their last days. It is not a crime scene, an area of vulgarity that the media would have you believe. It is a hand that helps you up, a loving embrace, a gentle kiss on the cheek, a push to finish that race, laughter, a friendly voice at the end of the phone, a place that enriches lives and warms even the coldest of bones. Call it what you wish, but remember this: to you, it might just be an estate, but to me, a million more. It's home.
God, God, I'm finding it hard to speak. It's just it's so your words are so powerful, and you just seem to. The thing I love about you, Ever, is that you just get to what's necessary and what's vital. People and wow, wow.
I mean, my family are very much rooted in Kaya Park. My granddad spent his life there. He died there. When we drove him for the last time of the day of his funeral, he went past the streets that he grew up
Mm,
in Glod. And, my nan is still there, in the house that they lived in throughout their entire marriage. My other family is still dotted around. It's very much a place that will always, always have my heart. And it doesn't matter where I go in the world, whether that's to Newport, to Bristol, to London, across the seas. It doesn't matter. That is literally my route. And I never have to, wonder who I am or where I'm from, because I know, because that's my grandparents, it's my cousins, my aunties, my uncles, my mum, my dad. That's who we are. We're rooted in that very spot, and we may, grow in different directions, but essentially that's literally always going to be the seed in me.
so lovely. It's honestly beautiful. It's really lovely.
Thank
So,
you.
what advice, if you could go back to your younger self, would you give?
Ooh, that's a heavy question. Um, it's weird, because I see myself, especially 5-year-old me, going through very, very awful experiences. And I look at myself, and even when I look at photos, it doesn't feel like it's me. It feels like somebody I care deeply about, almost like my
Oh,
child. And if I could say anything to 5-year-old me, is don't worry, you will. You'll get there. You'll be all right. It's going to take time, but you are going to overcome this.
That's really lovely. That's really nice. And what advice? I mean, that's obviously something you'd like to pass on to others, but any advice for anyone else?
I think if you have a dream or an ambition, listen to what you feel, because there's going to be, I mean, essentially at the start of my journey 4.5 years ago, when I said, "Do you know what? Given the reactions I'm getting and the offers I'm getting for gigs, etc., I'm going to go for this. I'm just going to bite the bullet. I'm unhappy in my work life. I've suffered serious mental health issues. Do something that makes you happy." And I did it. And people are like, "Oh, poetry isn't a real job. You'll never earn any money out of that. You'll never do anything." And 4 years later, I'm doing amazing things, working with amazing people. So my advice to anybody is, if you want something, there is going to be massive challenges. There is going to be people that slam doors in your face, but keep going, because if it's something that you feel, people will feel that around you and you will succeed. Don't let somebody else tell you how to live your dream. Live it the way you want to. Pursue your own happiness, because at the end of the day, the race is with yourself, nobody else. You need to invest in yourself and your future, because nobody else can or will, unfortunately. So just go for it.
I love the races with yourself and no one else.
Absolutely. Like, nobody else is living your life, you are. Live
Brilliant.
it for you. Live it for you. You can support people, but live it for you. Your happiness matters. You matter as a person.
Really beautiful. So I've got another one that's just slightly heavy as well,
Okay.
but I'll lighten it and smile as I'm saying it. So, what legacy would you like to leave behind?
Essentially, I've got a saying that I always say: leave a legacy, not a scar.
Oh,
And
oh,
although I absolutely adore poetry, my objective when I got into this was to speak for people that don't have a voice, and to change and challenge things in society that were damaging to others. So, as wonderful it is to be remembered for poetry, I would much prefer to be remembered for the changes or the support that I gave to people. And hopefully, I can leave a legacy behind that inspires others to continue change and to support one another. And, at the end of the day, what do you want people to say about you on your last day, or when you depart the world, like we all do? Like, how do you want to be remembered? And I want to be remembered for leaving a legacy and never ever a scar.
oh. And do you often think about that? Because I mean, I do. Certainly in the last how many years, I've really thought about how would I like people to remember me, and especially my children and stuff and all the rest of it. Do you think about that a lot?
I have thought about that for many, many years, especially
Mhm,
with having some serious health problems.
mhm.
And, when you've got like serious health problems, like recently I found myself in resus, you do think about your mortality, even though, people would consider me quite young. I'm 32. To be confronted with not knowing if you're going to reach a certain age, or not knowing if you're going to overcome something, you do question the decisions you've made. You do look back at your life and think, well, on the day I leave, how are not just my family and friends, because of course they're always going to talk about me in a loving way, but how are the strangers or the other people that you've impacted on your journey through life going to talk about you? And, I've made bad decisions in life. In my teens, I was often in trouble, on a weekly basis. And I look back at that and I think, okay, you were going through a rough time. And I've spent many, many years trying to rectify the bad decisions that I made. And I do, I forgive myself for the things that I've done, because I wasn't given the best tools and I didn't have the best avenue to go down. But I always, always just want to be remembered for helping and supporting people, or at least trying to alleviate a situation. Because I think as human beings, we look at things in a in a boxed off way, but actually I feel when you're born, you're obligated to ensure that others around you feel safe enough to be authentic and feel safe enough to walk the streets. I think that's an obligation as a human being, to care for even the smallest of insects. If we all just spent our lives just meeting that simple obligation, I think everybody would be so much happier, because they know that they can rely on that person, or they know that a stranger is going to support them in some way. And you don't have to be as bold or as bright as the sun or the moon. I mean, it's just little tiny things, like a hand in a moment, or a brew during a difficult time. And actually those flickers of lights, all individually shining together, as I always say, can defeat even the darkest of darkness.
That's amazing. And it would be so lovely, wouldn't it, if we taught this in schools?
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
because nobody is born bad. Nobody is born with judgment. I mean, that's, essentially what you put out into the world feeds into our young people and our children. And often when a child says something that isn't, let's say, desirable or hurtful to another person or another child, at that moment in their life, a 5-year-old hasn't got the brain or the knowledge or the understanding to know what they've said. They've heard it and it's environmental. Nobody is born bad. And I feel like if we're just conscious of the way we act around each other and like the language that we use, just always speaking kindness. And the thing is, like, one thing that you can learn is with somebody that you fiercely disagree with or somebody that you would regard as brackets enemies, if you showed them the same love and compassion as you showed those that you do love,
mm,
imagine how much less conflict we'd have. And imagine it's like that whole belief thing. When you love another person, that gives them the belief to love themselves. Their bitterness grows from the inside, and that's from a lack of love, I feel.
yeah, there's a great saying, isn't there? The hurt people hurt people.
Exactly. Don't take the knife out your own back and stab another person. Just show love. Just love. Like there's a lot to be said. Like the very first page of my book says, love is a cure, an incurable disease.
Wow, it's lovely.
Just and I try my best. There are times where I am a bit sharp-tongued or I can be a little bit bitter, but I try to self-reflect as much as I can and realize that, the outside world aren't entirely understanding of what you feel inside. So don't put that out there. Try and love yourself and love others. And
Mm,
honestly, since I decided to start doing that and became very conscious of my language and my behavior and even the way I sit and hold myself, the world becomes a better place for you, not just on a
yes.
kind of environmental level, but for yourself as well. Like love yourself. When the world doesn't love you, love yourself even harder.
Oh, that's really lovely. So, if you were to use one word to describe yourself, which word would you use?
Tenacious.
Great word. Great, great word. Every time I talk to you, every time I receive an email or a text from you, it's just enlightening. It is. You're a
Nice one,
beautiful
Church.
person. No, seriously, it's amazing. I absolutely love talking to you and I love listening to you. You're amazing. And it's so funny. I mean, with these podcasts, I always write, notes, and yours have just written so many lovely things down.
Thank you.
It's lovely. It's just so wonderful. Thank you so much indeed for
It's
agreeing to be part of Just Me.
this is brilliant. I mean, I've really enjoyed myself, and it's always a privilege to talk to you and get involved with whatever you're doing. So thanks very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
No worries.